This video is of me wiring a 551B Western Electric KSU. This KSU is a 4-line key system, and I will add 4 cables to support 4 2565 type telephone sets. This KSU is a very clean KSU. The only defect is someone drilled holes in the front cover. Otherwise, this is a very nice, clean KSU. The top right side is the 28 type power supply, and then we have the line cards below it, which when this is tested and listed on eBay will have different 400 type line cards in it that will work on VoIP type phone service. As it is, this would require landline, or what would be referred to as grounded ringing, to make those line cards work. I will make a close-up of the inside of the KSU. I have presently connected the ground wire and a 4-pair Cat5 as the input telephone lines to the key system. The 25 pair cables will all be category 3 standard cable. The blue-yellow wire that we're looking at that's connected to the CA terminals is what is used to tie all 4 lines together so that when one of the 4 lines ring, it will signal, in this case, the buzzers inside of the telephone. This KSU does not have any ringing generator built into it, and I do not have the ringing generator bracket to mount a 118 frequency generator. So the telephones will be using the buzzers. So in order to make all 4 lines ring on a phone, and each cable will be wired to buzz the buzzers on an incoming call, you tie the CA leads together. Down below you can see that we have the 4 tip in the rings and a Cat5 cable. Normally I would use category 3, but I did not have any Cat3 4-pair handy. So line number 1 is the white-blue, line number 2 is the white-orange, line 3 is white-green, and the last line is white-brown. Over on the right side where it says RG and RB, that is where the ringing ground or ringing battery would connect. I have a yellow-blue jumper that is connecting it up to the motor battery and the lamp ground. Motor battery is 10 volts AC in this particular case. And I'll get a close-up of the 28 type power supply. You can see that we have 20 volts signal, talk, and then the 10 volts and the 18 volts. The 18 volts can be used for the intercom buzzers, but generally I use the 10 volts. The 10 volts is for the lamp and the interrupter and buzzers. The 20 volts DC signal and talk in this particular case is the same thing. It's filtered 24 volt battery. Okay, I will wire down some of the 25 pair cables. I will be in the way partially blocking the video while I'm wiring it down, and I will be approximately 5 feet further away from the microphone, so the audio may be a little bit lower. I'm presently outside of my garage where we have better light and decent weather. When it comes time to testing the system, I will have to move it to the building where I have it set up for testing these types of key systems. This system will have on it 3 telephones. So this is cable number 1. I will begin at the top of the color code with the first 3 pairs, which is line number 1 of this cable. And I will be tying it down to the first line card slot in the KSU, which is the top 6 pins, or 3 pairs. So we will start out with the lamp ground, the A and A1, and the tip and the ring going to the telephone. And of course this is line number 1. I am leaving a service loop of line 1, and then I will leave a different one for line 2, line 3, and line 4. If you go from here to here, you have no way of correcting a problem or troubleshooting, and the Bell system generally trained their people to leave service loops, and it's a good idea to do that. Line 1 of the system is now connected to 1 cable. I would then connect the second line below that. Alright, I have the second line on that cable tied down, so I will do the third line. Line 3 is finished on that cable. Red slate, where are you at? I hate this cable. One issue with this particular cable is the black-orange is split in here, so in order to get the full pair I had to hunt for the mate. And this is typical in some of the old cable that the color, they weren't twisted well, or the colors were not very good. This particular cable is actually a Bell system cable. Anymore. Because this system is not going to use the ringers, I will take the ringer lead and tie it down across from the normal leads where the ringer would tie to, so that if in the future somebody wants to convert this from buzzers to ringing, they can put in what's called a bridge clip between 3 and 4, and then remove the yellow-green going to the buzzer, and then the phone system would then ring telephones instead of buzzing buzzers. So there's the buzzer for the first set, and the ringer for the first set. So I will put a label on the end of the wires that are not needed, and then if ever needed in the future, I can just hunt for it and pull them out of there and be good to go. And that is cable number 1 of the 4 cables. I will go ahead and do the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th cable, but I may edit it out of the video. Depends on the background noise of what my neighbors are doing and so forth. So if you don't see me lay down all 4 cables, you'll see at the very end 4 cables connected to the system. I'm sure that this is not super exciting to most people, but anyway, it is what it is. So I'm right now undressing the jacket off of a 25 pair cable, and then all of the extra string that was put into the cable for manufacturing or keeping it twisted together. This particular cable is going to be cable number 2. So there is a bracket down here that the cable needs to go under, so I will run it under there. Once this machine key system is completely wired, there's going to be over 100 pairs of wire inside of it. Because they start to get out of control, the more wires you have. We have over 54 pair at this point in here, or 53 actually. I do tie wrap them to keep them somewhat bunched together. We're on cable number 2, and I will mark it as cable number 2. It's not necessary to mark it in 3 places, what I do. So again, I can start out with the top, or in this case, since I already got my service loop for the line 4, I would just begin at the 4th line and work my way up to the white-blue pair. I've wired so many of these systems over the years that this is just old hat. The only issue is my eyesight's not what it was when I was in my 20s. I've sold probably 25 to 30 of these systems on eBay and installed many in the field for real business applications back when 1A2 was still popular and you could actually sell the systems in the 80s and the early 90s. Let's see, red orange. So we have line 4, line 3 of the 2nd cable connected. This is the lousy cable. The mating leads are all falling apart and hard to find. So now I have the leads for line 2. Okay. So line 2 of the second cable is wired, so all I have left is line 1. Okay, fine, be a butthead. So line 1 of the second cable is done. So I have the buzzer for the second cable. And the ringer lead, even though the ringer will not be functioning in the telephones in this particular system.
The current time, 5:00 p.m. Temperature 79 degrees.
The basic concept behind this 66 block is each of the 4 cables, and you could add a 5th, but it becomes very crowded doing it, is this row is all connected across, and the next row and the next row. So effectively I'm taking 4 cables and tying the white, blue, blue, white to each other on all 4 of them, and then to the lug going to the line card. So this is almost like a wire nut in the electrical world. So we have the first button on the phone, which you got your tip and ring, which is your audio path, phone line, your A and A1. The A1 is a ground. The A lead is what operates the KTU, and then you have the lamp, ground, lamp. In Western Electric telephones, the lamps have their own return ground, unless it is a 2564 set or a 564 set. ITT generally made mostly 2564s, so there's only one ground lead that's connected to the phone. Inside of the telephone, they did tie the grounds together at the Amphenol in some cases. That's not a very good way of grounding the lamp, because the more activity you have, the more cable, the length of cable, and the activity on incoming calls, calls on hold, all the lights will somewhat flutter if any of them are on hold or ringing. In the Western Electric equipment, you had a return lamp ground for every lamp, which reduced that. Still, the cable length would become an issue as well. So in here, there's 4 B1R1. So B1R1 is the ringer lead for line 1, B1R1 is the ringer lead for line 2, and so forth. So In this case, we're using 10-volt buzzers, so I'm using the yellow-green, which was the pair that Western Electric used in their 6-button 2564, 2565, 564, and 565. The ringer leads, again, are over here, the bell in the phone, so the yellow-green can be removed, and then put a bridging clip in, remove the 10-volt AC, add a ringing generator, and then the bells in the telephone would ring at that point. But this system is not equipped with a ringing generator, which would mount here on the interrupter. There's a special bracket which is impossible to find, and then the black 118 frequency generator mounts in here with the AC cord plugging into the plug of the power supply. So I would tie down the third and the fourth cable, and then at that point tie it up with tie wraps, and then I will transport this into the building where I have AC power and phone lines and phones available. I'll replace the line cards with ones that'll work on today's VoIP service, and then we'll start testing the system, and I will video the testing of the system. So at this point I'll just discontinue the video of cables 3 and 4 because it's the same process. Alright, I have the 4 cables wired, and I've dressed up the cables inside of the control unit. And I will zoom in on this. The white tape, of course, is the numbers of the extra leads it's left over. As you can see, we have 4 cables, line 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have the buzzer leads and the ringer leads tied down to the R1B ones. I will move this to my central office and plug it in and test it. I have moved the key system from outside into my central office where I normally would wire these up. So the system is now plugged in to 120 volts AC, and I have the 4 telephone lines connected together on the same extension off of my step system. So at this time I would dial the main number and all 4 of the 400 KTUs will respond to the incoming call. I would demonstrate how I test the wiring of the key system to make sure before I send it out that it works correctly. So I will initially remove all 4 line cards, dial the number, and then I'll plug in 1 line card and we'll hear the phones buzz. I will remove that, plug in a different line card in a different slot. So I will be testing the internal wiring of the CA leads and the R1B1 leads, as well as testing the 400 type KTUs. Presently I have 2 400D issue 15, 1 400G, and 1 400H. The 400H was the last line card that they made. I personally don't like them, but they do operate. The only troubles with the 400H is you cannot go off hook and put the line on hold. There's a timer in the line card for a few seconds preventing putting the line on hold, which was what some people did to busy out the line during their lunch hour and so forth. So the KTU will not do that. If there was an incoming call and you answered it and immediately put it on hold, it would work correctly. So I'll remove the line cards, dial the number, and then we're going to put them in one at a time and remove them so that you can hear it in the background. I'll plug in line 1, which is the 400G. Line 2. Line number 3. And the final line number 4. So we know that all 4 lines work, so the wiring is correct. We also know that the interrupter works because I can hear it working, and as I'll show in a moment, you'll see the lamps flashing on the telephones. So at this point we have a working KSU, and then I will move to show you the telephones and the next testing that I do to verify that all 4 cables are working independently and correctly. Okay, I will make a call and we will see that all 4 telephones, that the lights are flashing on them, and then I will unplug the 4 telephones and then plug one in at a time to make sure that the buzzer is buzzing on an incoming call, and then I will unplug it and plug in another phone. So I'll do that 4 different times, and that will verify that the wiring of each individual cable is wired correctly. Alright, I have cable number 2 plugged in and it's buzzing. I will go to cable number 1. Cable 1 is buzzing correctly, so I will unplug that and go to cable 3. And then I'll do the last cable, which is number 4. And we have 4 working cables, so then I'll plug the phones all back in. And you can actually hear the buzzers. So as it is, the black phone is lit up, the beige phone is lit up, the white phone of course is lit up, and the ivory phone is lit up. So what I would do is go off hook on one phone. So I just canceled the ringing of all 4 lines in the phone. So I'll go off hook on line 1. You can see we have line 1 on every phone, line 2, line 3, and line 4. I'll hang up. I'll use the black phone. We should have line 1, line 2, 3, and 4, and then I will have on the ivory phone 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then on the white phone line 1, 2, 3, and 4. So at this point I have made calls from each phone on each line, so I know that the polarity is correct on all the phones. And I'll hang up the line that I called the system on, and that'll drop the line circuit, so when I go off hook I'll get dial toned. So the last test I will do, I'll demonstrate getting dial tone and dialing a digit on each of the phones to where you can hear that at least in the background. Line 1, my office code is 377, my test number is 5511, so I'm going to dial a 3, put the line on hold, and then I'm going to dial a 7, go to the next line, dial a 7, then I'll go to the last line and I'll dial a 5, and at this point I've dialed 3775. I'll pick up on this and dial another 5. Go to the next line, 1, 1, and it will be busy. And yes, it is. So then I should have busy signal. So I've tested these two phones. Well, I will do the same thing here. We'll dial a 3, a 7, 7, 5, and I've demonstrated that the touch tones work on all 4 phones, all 4 cables, all 4 lines. At this point, the system is ready to be boxed up and shipped. Of course, I have to take photographs of it, and this system will be listed on eBay. Generally, I sell eBay systems with a beige phone, a black phone, and an ivory phone. For demonstration purposes, I also built a white phone. I don't know yet what colors of phones will be listed on this system. The black phone, which I do have a black handset cord for, but it's new in a package, so I did not want to open it up, had an aftermarket jack set attached to it. So this phone, you can plug in a Plantronics operator's headset and use the headset on the phone instead of having the handset if you chose to. This is the only telephone I have that's got an aftermarket headset jack still wired to it. Normally I remove them and just make them standard 6-button telephones. I do build custom systems for people. I've had equipment shipped to me and I've wired it for their particular application, as well as I've had people request intercoms, which can be added, but that's an additional component and additional wiring. And I've had people also interested in having more than 4 or 5 cables on the control unit, and that can be done. So I do that type of work. I've also had larger systems that were more than 4 telephone lines. The largest one that I ever built and sold and shipped was 8 lines and 10 or 12 phones, and that was several years ago. So as long as it can be put in a box, it can actually be wired and shipped out. These systems generally have been going to collectors out there who wants to have a small key system in their home or their collection. I have had a few people actually buy these systems for their office. One person bought 2 KSUs because they had 2 businesses, and that was, of course, several years ago. The last thing I need to do is test is I'm going to cut off the cable that has dial tone on it and call each line individually, which I don't need to because I've done that test through the line card, but I will open up the 4 leads, and then when I ship it off, there'll be a 4 pair that will be wired to whatever type of a phone line a person has. Okay, you can see that I have the 4-pair wire. All of the tips are wired together and the rings are wired together. The green alligator clip is the tip and the red alligator clip is the ring. So I'm going to cut these off, and then I will go off hook on for an example, line 4 after I remove line 4, and it should go dead. It will go dead unless there's a problem internal on a phone. So there's the 4th pair. So at this point I only have 3 pairs of the 4 pair left hooked up. That's nice. And sure enough, no dial tone in line 4. So I'm going to take and cut off line 3. Oops, I just cut off line 1. Dang it. Well, okay, so line 3 would be dead. And that's a true statement. Line 1 is already dead because I cut it off early. So that's good. So the only thing left is, of course, line number 2. And when I open it up, like here, I should have absolutely nothing. That's a true statement. So other than photographs, this system is ready to be put on eBay, and somebody will have a nice little key system, and they will have a YouTube video of their key system. Probably the only one that I would do of a 551 series system. I will show what a ringing generator looks like. Okay, I have a 551 KSU type ringing generator. This is a Western Electric 118 frequency generator. This is the front side. This is the back side that was a 90-degree adapter was added on for mounting it. And then of course the cable that goes in there, you would plug the KSU into the one side and then the power cable to the wall on the other. These ringing generators come up from time to time on eBay between $30 and $50 each. The thing that's impossible to find is the mounting bracket to mount that. That concludes this part of the video. If you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section. Thank you.